Hello, I'm Alfred Williams, and we're going to go on a little adventure and learn how to use the tool SketchUp. So there's a number of different versions of SketchUp. I'm using an older version, SketchUp 8. So there you will find a little bit of difference. The history of SketchUp is interesting in that at one point in time it was actually free when you had the Google version of SketchUp, and then it was sold to Trimble, and Trimble had it free for a number of years, but now it's the latest version is no longer free. They have a version for personal learning, personal use, that's $55 a year. So we'll go into more detail about that, but the version I'm using is called SketchUp 8, and it should be pretty similar to the version that we'll have in class. And I'll show you how you can find that version as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is launch the application. So here it is on my desktop, SketchUp 8. We double click and launch it. And we are in SketchUp. So what I want you to do is to set it up the way I've got my version of SketchUp set up. And then we're going to go through the interface and start talking a little bit about how to use SketchUp. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to View, we're going to go to Toolbars. And I want you to turn on the large tool set, which is the toolbar over on the left that has all the tools in it. And you can turn off the Getting Started tool set. And I want you to turn on the styles, standard, and the views. And then I like using the large buttons because as I get older, my eyes are not what they used to be. And the other thing I want you to do is turn on the instructor over on the right. And what that instructor does is it gives you some hints as to how to use the different tools. Right now, my selector tool is active and it's giving me some hints as to how to use the selection tool, modifier keys and advanced operations and so on. So for a beginner, I think it's important to be able to have that on. Now, first thing we're going to do is start to understand the interface of SketchUp. So what we have here is a three-dimensional environment. And this three-dimensional environment can be set up a number of different ways. When you open up SketchUp the first time, mine jumped directly into SketchUp, unfortunately. You'll be tasked with deciding what type of template you want. If I go to Preferences and I go down to Template, you're going to see a menu like this when you first open SketchUp. And it's going to have a number of templates, and the idea is that when you have one of these templates, it's a way to measure the environment. Do you want to measure using feet and inches, meters, architectural design, millimeters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a number of different modeling templates for different types of work: product design and woodworking, plain view, feet and inches, et cetera. We're just going to start with the simple template, feet and inches, and click OK. And that's our basic setup. Now, what you'll see in the middle of the screen is this character. And the idea is that when you're doing kind of drawing, what becomes very important is scale. So by having that person there, we can see how large objects are in relationship to this person. And we'll leave that person there for a while. And then if you look on the screen, as I said before, there's various ways to set this up. This one has kind of like a horizon plane, which is green, and then there's a sky, and that can be turned on and off. And then you'll see three lines through the screen, which represent the X, Y, and Z axes. And when you're drawing things, what you want to do is generally orient them to one of those three axes. And so when I'm using SketchUp, I always want to make sure that I understand the relationship between the X, Y, and the Z axes. Across the top, you have your File menu. This is where you save and open and export your documents. Edit, and the edit, of course, a lot of the commands are redundant, and you'll use your keyboard for certain commands like undo and cut and copy and paste. You have your View, where we opened up our toolbars. and there are other options in there that will manipulate as well. Then there's the camera. And one of the things about 3D is that you're drawing in three-dimensional space. You have to understand at all times what relationship you have with the objects. And so we're going to go through understanding how to control the environment in such a way that you know what view you're currently looking at. And we're currently looking through the perspective view. And the standard view that we're currently using is the ISO view. And we'll come back and we'll tackle what that means in more detail as we go on. Next is that we have the ability to draw shapes like lines, arcs, and freehand, rectangles, circles, and polygons. And then there's a whole bunch of additional tools. And what we'll do is we will add additional tools as we go on, and we'll learn additional methods for editing using those tools. And there's some basic concepts I want to get to first before we go through some of the tools. Then we'll add additional tools as we move along. And then under Window, this is where I have things like additional panels and palettes that will open, like materials and layers and scenes and so on that are integral to the creation of SketchUp. Over on the left, we have our toolbar. And as I said, we'll be adding tools to the toolbar as we go on. And we're going to start by just adding a couple of simple tools. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this rectangle tool. And when I hover over the screen, you'll see a little pencil. I'm going to start by clicking in the corner where the origin point is. And over on the right, you'll see that it says rectangle tool. Click to set first corner, move cursor diagonally, click to set second corner. So one of the things about SketchUp is that you click, you move the mouse, and then you click again to release. So you rarely ever click and drag. You click, move the mouse, and click again. And there's some reasons for that. So I'm going to click, and I'm just going to pull out a little bit. And if you look down in the lower right-hand corner, make sure that you have expanded SketchUp to the point where you can see the dimensions box in the lower right-hand corner. And that dimensions box will tell you the dimensions of the shapes that you're drawing. And we're using simple feet and inches. And I'm going to drag this out until I make a box that's 5 feet. Okay, that's close enough. So there's something like that. That's a 5-foot box. It's 5'7" by 5'7". That's close enough. So what I've done here is I've drawn a shape. Now this shape, everything in SketchUp is comprised of faces and edges. And when a face is closed, it can be extruded or pushed. Okay. And so if I then go over and grab my push-pull tool, I can hover over that surface and drag it up. And I've now got a rectangle. Okay. So I'm going to stop right there, and then we'll pick this up in the next video.